Studio, author and producer of online courses and books that help singers learn how to train, to get strong and build your motor skills so that you can hit the high notes and sing absolutely amazing and do so without hurting yourself and have a great time. Today, we are super excited to talk about recording vocals in the home studio environment, okay? And I have the opportunity to introduce to you my friend and partner, Tyler Connaghan, who is a professional engineer and producer with some of the top studios in the nation, also a singer, by the way. And we have together, well, actually, Tyler did all the work, most of the work, and but we did work together on a special new course that's available for you guys that are singers to kind of help you get up and running and learn about how to track your vocals, because recording is the other part of the art form that is not really covered too much in my technique training courses, but it's super important to be able to make a recording so that you can hand something in for an audition, so that you can do demos, so that when people are spending a lot of money making an album, like a real serious professional production that you're going to sell and market someplace, that when you go in as a singer, you have a little bit of idea on what to do with the headphones and proximity to the mic, and you have just a little bit of intelligence. It's part of the job. Is understanding the studio. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Tyler Connaghan, and welcome, Tyler.
Hey, what's going on, guys? So yeah, we're going to be talking, I guess, a little bit today about vocal recording, what you guys can do maybe as beginners, people that don't know anything about the world of production or about recording, and sort of how to get into that, potentially how I got into that, and then, yeah, a little bit about the course as well.
Okay, good. So I'm just going to do a little quick here. Can you guys hear us and see us? It's always good to just kind of send that out on the system here. And we will do some Q&A. So if you have questions about recording, that is something that we want to take advantage of with Tyler's valuable time. So, Tyler, tell us a little bit about how you got into this, about being an engineer, and well, I guess maybe your passion for sitting at the console and how that came to be, and be interested to know about that. Please.
Yeah. So actually, when I've been in music forever. I've been singing since I was about 10 years old. I was in choir programs. I was in bands all throughout high school and throughout my early years in college. And really up until I graduated high school, I had no idea that I ever wanted to sit behind a console, that I ever wanted to record or get into production or anything. I really just wanted to sing. I wanted to be in a band. That was fun. We did a couple tours here and there. And I think it was halfway through college. I went to USC. I studied in the music program there. But even then, I was still a bit unsure as to where I wanted to end up on the other side of that. I was looking in the live realm, but I didn't like how the hours looked on that. The people that, God bless them, they work like 24 hours a day. People that work in live music. And so I got on the other side, and well, funny story. One night I was sort of out at a bar with some friends, and I ended up meeting this dude who worked at this studio, which is where I work at now. It's called Killingsworth Recording Company. And this is a sync studio out here. And when I say sync, I mean we write music that is synchronized with television and film. So it's music that you guys see in commercials, in promos, in trailers, in movies, in, whatever. And so I started talking to him about this, and he was telling me, just how they do it, how the studio runs, everything. And I was really interested. So I ended up going in for an interview one day, and yeah, ended up getting the job. And the first week was pretty brutal. Um, I had prior experience, sort of recording with Ableton at home. For those of you guys who know digital audio software, so I was doing that at home, not in a professional manner at all. I had played in bands, like I said, and so I had been on the recording side, as in like I was the one who was recording, not recording other people. So I kind of had an idea of how things worked, but certainly not to a professional degree. And so I actually got in there the first week, and we had a project with WWE, which is the wrestling uh, I don't know what you call it, the Wrestling Federation. Um, for any wrestling fans out there, I guess you guys probably know what it stands for. I completely forgot. But yeah, I kind of just got thrown in the lion's den. I had to learn Pro Tools in a week. I had to write 2 songs, have them recorded, produced, and mixed and ready to go. I was really scared, and I didn't sleep at all that week. But I learned a lot. And it's funny, even throughout all my years doing it at home and learning in school, I think I learned more in that week than I ever had. And it just got me really, really excited to do that and sort of be in a space where you could be creative and there was really no one watching you, right? Like you sit in a studio late at night, you can kind of just experiment with different things, experiment with different plugins, recording techniques. And I mean, there's a whole history. This has been going on, modern recording has been going on for almost a century. And there are just so many things to explore. And I kind of fell in love with that. And I fell in love with the idea of being able to be creative and to collaborate with other artists. Um, and yeah, I guess that's sort of how I ventured into recording and production.
That's how you got there.
Yeah. I mean, I could go on forever, but I don't want to,
Well, let's the recording. So what studios are you working with right now? You're sort of like a freelance guy, right? In the LA area?
Yeah, so I work with Killingsworth Recording Company mainly.
Okay.
This is out in Valley Village, Studio City area, for those of you who are familiar with Southern California,
Okay.
and here in Los Angeles. And so I mainly work there, and then I also do a lot of freelance work, which is sort of why I wanted to make this course in the first place. I do a lot of stuff from home. I even have a little portable rig that I'll take with me. I'm recording a band just down the road in Pasadena right now. And so every week I go out there once a week. I take my entire rig with me. We set it up in this big like warehouse looking space, and we just record. And so, I guess that was the one cool thing that sort of inspired me to make this course is that you can really do this from anywhere. And
Yeah.
like, that's such a cool thing that I'm sure engineers, it would have blown their minds to think about 20, 30 years ago.
For sure.
You don't need to be sitting behind $1 million console to make a record that can be played on the radio,
That's what I always thought too. I have a good friend that I did a lot of the professional recordings with back in Seattle, Jason Shavy at Synergy Productions. And he has this big, huge SSG, like this big, giant $500,000 console and stuff. And I like to tease the shit out of him. And I told him I went out to Waves and got the SSG plug-in. so I don't need to come in and use this big console. But I know that it's not the same thing. But
yeah, I mean, it's partially true. I mean, even a lot of the
really
big guys,
right?
it's like, yeah, they're doing the same thing. They're mixing in the box, as they say, on the computer, without ever going into analog gear. And that's why you see it all on eBay and Craigslist and all that now, because people don't need it. And it's just kind of collecting dust. And we're sort of moving into a new age.
Yeah, it's it's sort of a threat, isn't it? A bit to the big studio. I mean, at the end of the day, what is the big expensive studio? What can it do that, say, a home recording operation just isn't going to be able to do in the, with the best engineer behind it?
Well, I have to give credit obviously to the big engineers and the big studios, because there are so many things that that they do, and that they hmm. I mean,
What
for
would be the
starters,
reason?
you think
What would
think
be the
about,
reason
like,
for dropping all that coin versus doing something sort of more small and sort of what we're going to be talking about? Just curious.
yeah, I guess it depends also on the music that you're making too. I mean, obviously, I
Okay.
can't fit 20-piece orchestra in my house. I guess I could run them, mics and stuff in every room, but that's not gonna, that's not gonna work. I couldn't record like a good live drum set here. And there's something to be said about a lot of that analog gear too, and the way they set up the rooms, the way, you have people that are well versed in sound architecture, and people that come in and
Okay.
build these studios in these
Okay.
perfect acoustic environments.
Yeah.
And so there's certainly, you can't knock any of that, because there's definitely a place for it. But I think with as technology continues to grow, there's more and more of that can move to a smaller home studio. Um, so yeah, there are definitely limitations that you would have here
Hmm.
in a room that's
Okay.
not perfectly acoustically treated or anything like that. But
All right.
yeah,
Tyler, what would be so we're getting back to our home recording. So let's talk about that in your course.
yeah,
You've spent, well, you spent almost, it seems like almost a full year creating that course.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's pretty cool. By the way, I was there, guys. Every step of the way. It was really fun watching it come together, and it will be available at the vocaliststudio.com, as well as out at Udemy in different formats. But Tyler, what are three sort of big mistakes that you see amateurs and beginners and amateurs, and even guys like me that are I'm sort of like a novice at this, that we make, that we should be aware of, and that if we are aware of it, it'll make our recordings instantly sound better? What advice could you give us? Three dumb things that beginners and novices make in home recordings. Maybe it's not dumb, but just they don't know any better, that they
Yeah.
could prevent.
Well, number one, and one thing I hear when sort of working with people who send me demos and things from their homes that don't record or that aren't producers. If you're recording in a room that sounds bad, there is very little that you can do to fix that. So that's one thing I talk about in the course is finding the right room, learning how to treat the room in a way that's not very expensive, but that's useful and effective.
Mhm.
And that's a huge, huge thing. So number one, always record in a room that sounds good. And when I mean something that sounds good, something that's not super echoey,
Mhm.
something that when you clap, it's not going to clap back at you. Um, so that's the first thing, is getting your environment right, and that's the biggest
Okay.
mistake. And just by doing that, you can fix so many problems. And then I guess to go along with that, one mistake that I often see is people feel the need to spend too much money on gear. So this microphone, for example, it's a great microphone. It's a Shure SM7B. It's not very expensive in the grand scheme of things, but it sounds great, and it sounds great anywhere. And you can basically put this down in just about any room, even if it's not treated, and it's going to sound good. And that's because it's not so detailed that it's picking up everything in the environment. On the other hand, you
Okay.
could go and buy, a $5,000 microphone, and I think a lot of, people that are new to recording get enticed by things that are a bit more expensive, if they have the money to blow,
Okay.
and they'll go out and buy these things and realize that it doesn't sound good, and a lot of that has to do with the environment that they're recording in, and the fact that they maybe just don't know how to use it properly. Um,
Okay.
so that's what I would say is be careful about the gear that you buy. Don't feel the need to buy expensive things, because sometimes the things that are less expensive are meant for people who are recording at home. So it just makes
Uh-huh.
more sense.
So we
Um,
have sound isolation. We have don't spend too much money on gear. What else?
um, I guess moving into sort of the mixing phase, just one thing off the top that I hear on way too many amateur recordings is the overuse of reverb. And I think for singers love to hear themselves drowned in reverb. I think it makes us feel more confident, right? But when it's on a recording, you listen to most professional pop recordings, and you'll
Uh-huh.
notice that there's barely any reverb on there. And if it's there, it's sort of an effect that's tucked in the background, and it sort of gives you a sense of space. It doesn't feel like, you know, the singer's standing in a church and
Yeah.
singing to you. Um, so yeah, if there's any any one piece of mixing advice I could give is uh be conservative with the amount of reverb that you use, because though it may sound cool to you while you're tracking or while you're throwing it up there, it's gonna sound like an absolute mess anywhere else.
Yeah.
Um,
So what do you have in the course that would address these three things? I took notes while you were saying that. We have we have isolation of
yeah,
taking out the ambient noise. That's always like the first thing that I hear professionals like yourself bitch about.
yeah,
When I bring in some like a track or whatever, what's up those fucking noise inside
yeah,
this recording, and I feel sort of embarrassed about it. So we have sound isolation, um, gear, maybe just a quick rundown of the signal chain, real basic, short and basic. They'll go in more detail in your course, but and then maybe a plugin or a way of handling effects. You want some, but you don't want too much. Could you just
yeah.
quickly touch on that?
The
What the
signal chain that I would use.
yeah. So sound reinforcement, sound isolation solution for home recording.
Mhm.
A and then yeah, talk about your sound chain, your signal chain.
Cool. Okay. Yeah.
Portable signal chain.
Well, the microphone, like I said, I love this one, the Shure SM7B.
Okay.
And I talk about this in my course also, but the microphone that you get really depends on the singer. If I'm working with a singer that has a really bright, a lot of rock music that I work with, I use this microphone. It's good at handling really high, harsh levels of sound. So
Okay.
I love this thing. And it really depends. Sometimes I have a Warm Audio 87. I have another tube mic. So I'll switch those out depending on who I'm working with, and sort of just test them to just see which one sounds best. And the thing about recording is a lot of people, if we could go back to the mistakes thing really quick, a lot of people
Sure.
use their eyes. They're looking at meters too much, and they're looking at plugins and things like that. But really, it's all about what you're hearing. So the best piece of advice I ever got was, if it sounds good, it is good. Period. Don't stress too much about, I talk about levels, I talk about all these things in the course. If it sounds good to you, it's
Mhm.
good. Um, so
Okay.
that's one thing to keep in mind. But yeah, so I usually run out of one of the microphones that I have. I love the Shure SM7B. I run into a little interface. I actually have that going over here right now. This is a Universal Audio Apollo Twin. It's a really solid portable interface.
Okay.
And it comes with a virtual interface as well that you can control from your computer.
Okay.
I think they run about like $800-900 for the twin. You can get a smaller one or a larger one too. But Universal Audio, they're great. They have
Okay.
incredible preamps. Then I run out of there and into Pro Tools. I
Okay.
record in Pro Tools a lot. I started out in Ableton when I was younger, but I've found a love for Pro Tools. It's definitely the industry standard at this point. I don't know for how much longer. It looks like Logic's sort of starting to take over, so I guess we'll see
Cool.
where that goes. Um, but yeah, so microphone, interface, Pro Tools. And then I have these KRK Rocket 8 studio monitors in the back right now. I'm actually thinking of getting rid of these. I used to have a pair of Yamahas, the HS8 monitors, and I think I want to get those back. I love these things, but I guess I want something in my home studio at least that has a bit more definition. And
Okay.
this is all for I guess my own personal rig. It changes at the studio. We have a couple pieces of outboard gear, compressors, preamps, and things.
Tyler,
But yeah, pretty
um,
simple here.
thank you. So we all know what a microphone is. What is, I think there's some people that are watching this that don't know what you mean when we say interface. Preamps,
Yeah.
interface, in a real basic way, if you could just explain to your future students what it is, why it's important, the interface. And I have some of my interfaces are over here. These are my preamps.
Right. Yeah. So so everyone, if you look back there, that's basically what they are. Essentially, just little pieces of hardware, little boxes. They can change in size and design. But the basic point behind them is when you have a microphone, it uses this little XLR cable right here. It's a 3-pin cable. If you've ever used a microphone or plugged in a microphone, you'll know what that looks like.
Mhm.
And you can't plug the other end directly into a computer. You essentially need something to convert this this energy, electrical energy, into acoustical energy. And so that's essentially what an interface does. It just converts your microphone signal into something that your computer
Yeah.
can understand.
Into
Um,
would you say it converts the analog signal into a digital signal that the computer will be able to work
yes,
with,
exactly.
right? And something I didn't really realize until sort of late in my experience doing recordings, but now I really appreciate it, is that an interface, correct me if I'm wrong, has a preamp built into it, or interface is a preamp. Maybe it's synonymous. But one of the things that these boxes do, in addition to translating the analog signal into a digital signal, is they can provide coloration to the signal, coloration to what you're singing. And I'm way oversimplifying, but in a sense, make you sound much better, bigger, bolder, warmer. So the preamp, well, it sort of amplifies the signal, doesn't it, Tyler? And then it also adds warmth and some coloration to the signal, so it doesn't sound like you're just singing through, a Radio Shack system. Is that a fair?
Yeah, 100%. It
Okay.
there's a lot of science involved, and I'm not even that technically inclined to explain how electronics work in that sense. But yes, they make you sound better if you get really nice quality preamps. Like I said, Universal Audio, it's the one that I use. Their preamps are amazing. I've used other
Okay.
cheaper and more expensive interfaces. You get
Yep.
a really really cheap interface, it's gonna have that sort of boring flat digital sound where
Okay.
there's
Yeah.
nothing going on. So yeah, preamps, having a good preamp is in your interface is definitely worth it.
I'll take advantage of this just for listeners, so they know what I'll let them know what preamps I'm using as well. And by the way, my stuff is not the heavy duty, super expensive rack stuff that Tyler gets to play with every day. But it's the home recording stuff, right? And certainly I have a Focusrite. I like the Focusrite system. A little
Yeah.
Scarlett. It sounds great. A little
Focusrite
Focusrite.
is wonderful. I highly recommend that to anyone starting out too, because they have
Yeah,
some really great beginner and
yeah.
professional sounding
Right, I do
interfaces.
too. The Focusrite, it's a company out of the UK that makes preamps and interfaces. They have some like home recording stuff, and then they have, as I say, they have the professional stuff too. This is their little home recording system. It sounds great.
Yeah.
And then this is also Focusrite. This is the ISA1. It's a little bit more, it's actually more professional. I run through that too. This is the Universal Audio. Tyler had mentioned a Universal Audio Apollo, which is a smaller system compared to this one here. This is a Universal Audio. What is this guy? This is the 710. The 710, and it allows you to sort of dial in the difference between solid state and a tube. The solid state technology versus vintage tube technology, which tends to be a little bit warmer. This preamp, this interface allows you to dial in the benefits and the colorations from solid state versus a vintage tube sound coloration, and you can blend them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that one's
Cool.
best for people who are looking to get sort of that analog warmth, I guess.
But I would say it's not really home recordings. It could be, but it was expensive. So really, the Focusrite is the thing the Focusrite is where I recommend you would go. And down here, this is from Antelope Audio. This fourth one runs in emulation microphone that I run in emulation. Just means it's a microphone that ties into this system, and what the system does is it gives that microphone the ability to simulate 18 of the world's most historically vintage popular microphones in the world. So instead of having to find that $3,000, $5,000 microphone that I'm not going to spend any money on, you can bring in an emulation microphone system like the Antelope system that I have here. It's called Antelope Edge, and with the software, just kind of dial, like select like a plug-in, you select the microphone coloration, the vintage mic that you want, and it's very close to the original. It's not the original, but it's close.
Yeah.
My apologies. I went in the weeds a little bit there, and that's also
all good.
Yeah.
It's funny that Antelope Audio, one of the guys that I work with at the studio, he just picked it up, and we sort of like had this, I don't know, we're like, there's no way that this can work. You know what I mean? But he said he was using it at home, and it sounds great. He was like pleasantly surprised by how well it works and how much of a difference there is when you switch presets.
Yeah, it's a bit of a bear to set up. By the way, you got to do that damn iLock shit, and then you gotta do like a paired XLR, and it's like stereo, and anyway, it's some of a pain in the ass to get up and running. But once you get it up and running, you get access to 18 beautiful colorations. My apologies. I hope I didn't steal your thunder there, but so what's a DAW? In the most basic terms, again, for our beginning students of your course, they need to know, right, what that means.
Yep.
What is that? What is a DAW, and which ones do you recommend for home recording?
Yeah. So DAW stands for Digital Audio Workstation. It's essentially a workstation that allows you to work with digital audio, right? The audio that you record that's on your computer. So recording software. That's pretty much it. There are so many different companies out there that are making DAWs. Like I said, I use Pro Tools. It's by Avid, and I love it. I think if you are serious about recording and potentially taking recording and production further and potentially to a professional point in your life, then I would highly recommend starting out and going and learning Pro Tools. Because it's you just can't beat it. It's one of the most versatile DAWs out there. That being said, it's for beginners. It can be a bit confusing to get the hang of, which is why also in the course I recommend, if you have a Mac, if you're an Apple user, check out GarageBand. You'd likely have it installed on your computer anyway. I mean, I had an old Mac when I was really young. We had one of those old blue big Mac computers in our house, and we had like an old version of GarageBand on there, and it was cool.
I started on GarageBand.
Yeah, it was great, and that's how I learned.
Yeah. So if you're like completely intimidated by this and like freaking out, like, oh, there's so much technology, and you have a MacBook, you're actually sitting pretty good. You can get on GarageBand and make a damn good recording. Actually, you'd be surprised.
100%. And it's so much better too than when I was using it. I mean, I just opened it up the other day. I was helping someone set up a little home studio, and it's great. So I would highly recommend looking at that and then just getting familiar with it. Getting familiar with the sounds, how to plug things in, how things work. Take it slow and get a grasp on everything. And don't worry if it feels daunting, or you feel like you're going too slow, because it's worth it to have an understanding of these things, and eventually I promise you they will become second nature. And then you'll be able to hop onto any DAW you want and translate everything that you've learned from GarageBand.
My experience in home recording, I started off not knowing anything. I was sort of a late bloomer in this, but for the same reasons that your students are interested in your new course and they want to do this is you can't just, everything just can't be live. Can't always be singing live. And when you want to go out and get in a band, you know, people want to hear recordings. They give you bed tracks and like, okay, well, we're interested. Here's the lyrics. Here's the tracks from the original, from the first singer, whatever, just do what he did. And that's sort of what happens in the real world. And you have to be able to make a decent recording. It doesn't have to be awesome. It doesn't have to be something, anything, you know, quality that people would buy, but you have to make something decent that you can at least hand in for an audition. So,
Yeah.
And I wanted to do that with my students as well. So I'll make my point, which was I didn't know anything. I got a teacher, someone like Tyler taught me how to use Logic Pro and GarageBand. And I remember I stuck with it for about, what was that? It felt like 3 or 4 months of playing with the plugins and getting all the settings right and stuff. Initially, it sort of feels like you're flying a 747. There's just a lot of settings that have to be right and correct and things plugged in correct. And after about 90 days, you begin to get it all figured out, and then you're free to go. So you got to be patient. I think that's where early on you got to be patient with the settings and stuff. It can be sort of frustrating when you're first learning, don't you think?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's also why I recommend too. It's like if you get a program, don't feel the need to go out and buy a bunch of plugins or a bunch of extra stuff. Get to know what you have first and become the best you can be at that specific thing. I have hundreds of plugins. I maybe use 10 of them always because I know them. I know them really well. And there's no reason for me to waste time trying to learn other things. If I want to, yeah, I can go out and maybe sit down and figure something out one day. But I think that's, yeah, just so important is like being okay with the fact that like it may take a while to get good. And that's okay. Because it's hard. You know, if it was easy, everyone could do it and everyone could do it really well. But it's, you know, it's not the case, and that's fine.
If somebody went out to waves.com is a company that sells plugins. Tyler would not approve. I have too many plugins. They're sort of addictive because they're a lot of fun. You get like,
oh yeah, same. It's a
really cool plugin. It makes me sound like the Beatles or whatever. And you buy this stuff, and they're not very expensive, so you can kind of get too many quickly. That's me. But what plugin would you recommend? Beginner. I want a plugin that will give me some cool sauce. Is there like 1 or 2 simple plugins that could get out at Waves that you would recommend?
Yeah, if I was gonna say get one plugin, I would say go and get the SSL E channel. It's a Waves plugin. It mimics Robert, you were mentioning the G console, the SSL G console that your friend has earlier. It's basically the other the brother of that console, and it's basically just a little strip on that a channel strip. On the channel strip, you have EQ, you have compression, which is something that, you know, if you get into the course, you'll learn about, or we could talk about that here. But it's got pretty much every tool that you might need built into it. So very, very helpful. I use that on almost everything that I do. So SSL E channel, check that out.
Yeah. SSL is referring to, I forget the name of the company, but they are
Solid State Logic. Yeah.
Solid State Logic is a company, again, out of the UK that is somewhat considered to be the leading big console manufacturer. And SSL would be, am I wrong when I say it's sort of considered to be sort of a higher end console, right? I mean, this is like good stuff, right?
So yeah, this is like $500,000 console.
Yeah, right. The back. So
this is the digital version.
So if you got the waves.com, you can buy a little plugin for $30. That kind of gives you
crazy, right?
Yeah, yeah. I have that too. What about CLA? What about that seems to be a really popular plugin.
Yeah. The CLA has a lot of different. This is Chris Lord-Alge. He's a really big mix engineer. He's worked with Green Day. He's worked with My Chemical Romance, a lot of the big modern rock bands. And this guy has partnered up with Waves and has done tons of plugins over the years. He has some really, really, one of my favorites that he does is the CLA 76. It's an analog style compressor. It sounds great. I love it for pop vocals, for rock vocals, for rap vocals. That's a compressor. So if you're looking for another compressor, I would highly recommend checking that out. It's CLA-76.
Okay.
Really solid plugin. I know he also has a line of plugins where there's sort of all-in-one style plugins.
Mhm.
I can't really speak to those that much because I don't really use
I have
them.
one. You can
He has
have
like a
one.
CLA vocals one, I know, and
Yeah, I
I
got
think I've messed around with it before. I'm not sure. Do you like it or?
See, this is where what we're sort of talking about. Guys like Tyler, are like, yeah, I sort of saw it and messed around with it. I toyed around with it a little bit, but I just went back to my big rack system over here. But yeah, I have it. I've used it quite a bit. It has a lot of presets. So
Yeah. And that's always helpful too, is like flipping through those presets and then figuring out like, why did he choose to do that? You know, what am I hearing? Why, why does this preset have a quarter note delay sound instead of an eighth note delay sound?
yeah,
Those ridiculous things. But yeah. CLA vocals for vocalist, obviously it's right in the name. It could be a solid one.
yeah.
So check that out
Is
as
that
well.
the
Yeah.
presets? When we say presets, we mean you plug your mic and your preamp and everything. Your signal chain is all set up and running, and then you're on your DAW, which is just your recording software. You pull up the plugin, one of these plugins, and this was CLA Vocals, and it has presets in it, meaning it's or like the settings in some sense have already been set up for you, configured for you. So you just go, and they have names like epic ballad, hard rock, jazz crooner. They have names, and you drop them in there, and it kind of gives you the facts that would be appropriate according to the legendary guy that made the plugin for that genre.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I just want to go through the inventory that we have here, just to be clear, so people got the takeaway here. In our signal chain, we have for a microphone, the SM7B.
SM7B, yeah.
Tyler recommends the SM7B, and I hear people engineers talking about that mic all the time. So it must be hot. For a home recording preamp system, maybe one of these little Focusrite Scarlett.
Yeah, Focusrite. I would say if you're starting out, Focusrite, the 2i2, I believe it is. It's really inexpensive. I think they go for about $100. And they sound great. They're really portable too.
And the UA or the UA Apollo, which is
if you're willing to spend a little bit more money, the UAD Apollo, and that's something that you can grow with too, which is why I'd recommend that.
Plugins. Tyler's recommending you go out to a company called waves.com, and you get a plugin. It's a little piece of software, just like when you do a plugin to your browser. A little plugin goes into your DAW, your recording software. The SSL channel, the CLA. Yeah. Yep. Is that what it's called? SSL channel?
Yeah, it's an SSL-E channel. I think they both come in a bundle. So SSL channel. Yeah.
Okay. The CLA-76.
Yes.
Coach Robert uses the CLA Vocals, 2 different plugins from the same guys. And I also wanted to put a shout out up for Isotope. I like Isotope quite a bit too.
Yeah.
Isotope is a company that does vocal plugin software.
Yeah, and Isotope is great for it's used by beginners and professionals, but I think it's especially great for beginners, as it sort of helps you. It's got like an AI built in. I mean, it essentially kind of almost helps you to mix your vocals without you having to do anything, which is very strange. Don't take my job, Isotope.
That's why I like it.
Yeah.
That's what you're gonna. So, all right. So we hope for that. Hopefully, that's helpful for you guys. And DAW, fancy studio talk for the software. See the software over right over Tyler's right shoulder. That's a DAW. It's recording software, and there's different kinds. If you're a Mac person and you're a complete, absolute, terrified noob, just dive into GarageBand. It came free with your computer. The more professional version from Mac is Logic Pro. Right. So Tyler would be using Logic Pro if he was sort of a dedicated Apple guy. That's what I use. And then I want to, Tyler, for PCs, for PC people, what would be a basic, simple DAW for PC people? I think that that'd be helpful for them.
Yeah. I mean, you could start out with Ableton.
Okay.
I mean, most DAWs, just so you guys know, whatever operating system you're running on, most DAWs will likely work for whatever you're using. So you can use Pro Tools. You can use Ableton. I'm not sure how they run. I'm not a PC guy. I haven't used a PC in years. But I imagine it's just the same. So, you know, yeah, just go out, do some research, look up good DAWs for beginners. Ableton is one that I started with, and I liked that. I thought it was, you know, much easier to get into than Pro Tools was. So you can check that out. They also just came out with a new version. So
all right, cool. And so Tyler and I will be dropping in a link out to little Amazon.com stores where you guys can get this gear if you're interested in picking up this gear. And yeah, it is an affiliate link, and yes, it will pay for our latte habits. Believe me, it's not like great gobs of coffee made there. But the convenience to you is that you'll have a storefront and you'll have everything that we're recommending available to you. It's just easy to get the stuff as opposed to being literally lost outside of Amazon and not really knowing what you're doing. We take our recommendations, put them in a bucket, and it makes it easy for you to shop. So if you're interested in that. Tyler, we have some questions. Will you take some questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Where are we going to start here?
Let's go out here. Let's see, Nancy Carroll, my old friend from Paris. Hi, Nancy. It's good to see you, hear from you. It's been a long time. We should catch up. So Nancy Carroll asks, hello, Robert. Hope you're well. So you have a sound card and a preamp? Well, yes, I have preamps. These are my preamps. Tyler, do I have sound cards in these preamps?
So yeah, your sound card is what's going to be in your computer. Every computer comes with a sound card, stock. You can upgrade them, but it's a completely different thing. Your sound card is basically what allows you to play sound out of your Mac. So I have a sound card. I can't remember what it is exactly, but yeah, you have a sound card just built into your computer. So kind of two different entities.
Okay. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh, that's all good. I was just gonna say a preamp is something that's we think of that in our field as something that's external, something that's outside of the computer and built into an interface like we were talking about.
Okay. I'm gonna show this on the screen, which is sort of cool. Michael Rendon, TVS friend and student. Good to hear from you, Michael. We should catch up. Go out to the new website, by the way. Doing some cool stuff there. And thanks for coming to our show, Michael. Michael has a question. How many recordings does it take to get over self-criticism? I mean, some of us immediately hate our tracks so much we walk away.
That is the bane of being a musician, isn't it? You're your own worst critic. And Michael, you probably always will be. I always am. You know, I hop into sessions all the time, and I've been doing this for a while now. And I still sometimes get into situations where I'm like, I don't even know what to do right now, you know, but you just kind of got to push through it. I work with singers all the time. I was just working with a singer the other night. She's got a great voice. We were at our studio. She was recording and she just wasn't feeling it. And, you know, I could tell. So we kind of took some time, hung out for a little bit. We just jammed and stuff. And then she got back in the booth. She was feeling a little bit more comfortable and went through with it. But when you hear yourself and when you're in, especially in a recording environment as a musician, it's such an intimate practice. And it's really the only time, if you're a singer, that you get really intimate with your own voice, and you can kind of hear all of the flaws, all of the little things that you may have not heard when you were singing in the shower or screaming in your car. And, you know, so you play that back and it almost has an alien-like quality because you're only used to hearing yourself from, you know, the air around you, not from a speaker system coming back at you. So it's so common, especially for singers, to feel like they don't sound great when they hear their
Mhm.
own voices played back at them. And I
Mm,
think it's something that as you do it more and more, I think you just become you become used to it. So it doesn't sound as alien,
mm,
and therefore it sounds a bit better. I think the more and more um, you record.
mhm.
So I would just say, keep at it. It's yeah.
Can I take a stab at this? I'm going to take a stab at this. So, Michael, uh, what Tyler was hitting at is students singers tend to be far too critical on themselves. All right. Number one, in my experience, it's not nearly as bad as you think it sounds.
Mhm.
Just in general terms. Sometimes it sounds awful, I know, but just keep that in mind. It's probably not quite as bad as you may think. Two, another perspective of a disposition that I want to invite you to have is stepping up to the microphone and making a recording and then just being so frustrated because you think it sounds like shit is par for the course. It's the job. Being able to put up with that, being able to find the strength within yourself to not walk away. The part I don't like about your question here is where you're saying, I want to walk away. No, I don't. I don't want you to walk away. Don't do that. Don't walk away. Unless you're tired. There might be some reasons to walk away. You need to take a break. But figuratively, don't walk away. It's sort of your job to work through it, figure out the problems. And so what could that be? Well, maybe change the microphone. Sometimes when I'm recording, I get having much more fun in the moment, and therefore I'm getting a better track when I'm, plug your ears, Tyler, you're not gonna like this. When I'm holding a handheld, when I'm singing into a handheld, a condenser handheld, okay, there was some movement, there's some proximity issues with that, and you're not gonna get the nicer mics that you get when you're not holding a handheld. But just saying, that's my answer. I think holding a handheld can really make someone relax and feel comfortable. And taking a break, walking away from it, literally for a day, coming back the next day and listening to it and taking another stab at it. Good compression. I hope that's helpful. I'm trying to help. I'm trying to be helpful. That's what I've definitely had that experience before. Like, oh my God, this sounds like shit. And I'm proud of myself in the sense that I did not give up. I didn't give up. I either changed the mic, I changed my compression, I just stopped and came back the next day and wasn't hard on myself. And eventually it comes around. And here, the other thing that Tyler said that's important is that first, in our path as singers, we get used to hearing ourselves live first. In the rehearsal room, on stage, you're sort of used to balancing your voice in the sound around you in a live environment first. And then when we step inside the recording environment where we're wearing headphones, we got all these beautiful fancy plugins and preamps, suddenly that balance, it becomes it's a completely new environment, and you have to get used to it. You have to get used to it. I think that people that are really good at stepping up and just laying it down recording, one of the things that you're seeing with people that are doing that, like a lot of our friends that we see on Facebook, is they just have a lot of experience in the cans. They have a lot of experience of balancing their voice, the dynamics and the proximity and all of that, and the settings, making recordings. So if you get more experience, you'll make better recordings. I hope that's helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I also like what you said about the handheld too. I feel like if that works, then it works. I think it's so important to be comfortable
Yeah.
when you're singing and recording. If you're not comfortable, something's up. You need to change your environment. You need to dim the lights, maybe light a candle. I don't know. Do what you got to do. Take a shot of whiskey. That works for some people. But
Do that.
hey, sometimes it works.
I got a voice picture.
But I think, yeah, being comfortable is important. And if being comfortable to you is sitting cross-legged on the couch in your living room recording, then by all means do that. You don't need to feel like I'm in a stiff, sterile, high pressure, high anxiety environment when I'm recording, because you're not going to get a good recording. It's capturing you, right? It's capturing your emotions and the way that you feel and the way that you're projecting. And if that sounds, if whatever's coming out of your voice sounds timid and sounds uh anxious and unsure, then that's how what you're going to capture. So if a handheld is what makes you feel comfortable and what sounds good, again, if it sounds good, it is good. That's it. And so, yeah, just you taking the steps to figure out why don't you like your vocal recording, why don't you like the way it sounds, now what can we do to fix that?
I'm not super comfortable, I have to confess, with stand here, sing in front of this. It's
Yeah.
probably because I have so much flight time. I've logged so much time using my voice live as a coach and teaching and training and singing on occasion, that that's like 90% of my time has been live. That when I get up to the microphone, I don't like feeling like I can't move, I can't sort of dance and groove to it a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's something I need to improve, because it means that there's a risk of making a decision to not sing into the better microphone, which gives a better signal into the signal chain for guys like Tyler to mix. But I'd be lying to you if I told you, if I just plug it into my Neumann K104, it's a sort of a fancy condenser mic. It's about as nice as you can get on a handheld, and I just sing live, I get a better take. I get a better take on the handheld.
Yeah. Yeah, and you should never feel like the need to. I mean, if you're ever working with an engineer for singers out there, and they tell you to just stand still, then they're doing you wrong. I mean, you should be able to move and kind of feel your. I always say, like, every time I'm working with someone, it's like, just feel yourself. Get loose in the booth, uh, and do whatever you need to do to, like, get into character, to really feel yourself and be in that moment that you were in when you maybe wrote the song, when you sang it for the first time. Because we're making music over here. That's pretty cool. This shouldn't feel like a task. It should feel fun. It should feel exciting and emotional and everything. And
Check
so,
out, check out Michael's thing here. He says, "Great answers from you. My DAW has been a scary monster hiding in the closet since the last time I tried recording a while ago." Yeah, sounds like you got Pro Tools. I don't know. I'm just saying. I can't wait to check out Tyler's course and give it another go.
nice.
So
Do it up, Michael.
that's a nice little handoff. Let's talk about your course a little
Yeah,
bit.
absolutely.
So what was your objective to make? Like, okay, I'm going to make a course on home recording to help people, beginners and mostly beginners and intermediate type folks, right? Yeah, I mean, that's in the title, right? So what was your strategy, and what have you delivered from a high-end view in a recording vocals course that you think that beginners need and that you have delivered in your course? Why are beginners what's it about, and why is it gonna help? Please.
Yeah, so the idea behind the course was, well, it actually the idea came about during the whole quarantine thing, right? Where you were all sort of trapped at home. And so we're singers all around the world. And so it was the idea here was to make a course to show those people who were singers and musicians that it's very much possible to record a professional sounding vocal and mix and produce it from the comfort of your own home. And you're seeing it more and more these days. There's tons of professional singers. When you look at Billie Eilish, I think she recorded all of her vocals in her bedroom here at home, and she's one of the arguably the biggest artists in the world right now.
Yeah.
And so it's possible, and there are so many great examples of it. And I kind of wanted to share my experience, and tips and techniques, and things that you can use to get started, right, and build a foundation for yourself. And so we go over things, from the very basics of plugging in a microphone, getting your room set up, figuring out what DAW you want, figuring out what microphone you want, into uh, a little bit more, sort of borderline intermediate techniques on, equalization, compression, and reverb, delay, and all these things that are sort of manipulating the voice, to make it sound professional and clean and polished once it's already in your computer. So it's basically a beginner's course from start to finish, to
Yeah.
just get you going. And by the end of it, you should be able to record your vocals and mix them in a way that you can start making good demos. You can start putting out, I know YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, those are really big things for singers right now. And there's a lot of competition. Years ago you could just kind of sit in a room with your acoustic guitar and play and get your stuff out there,
Yeah.
but it's not that way anymore. There's a lot of competition. And uh,
Indeed.
if you want to be able to you know get up there in the ranks, you need to have a professional sound and a professional look and everything. um, so this course is something that can certainly help you to get there. um, and it's for singers too, which is very specific. I think there are a lot of there's a lot of recording and production courses out there that go really into detail on everything, which can be a little bit overwhelming. I think when you're
Yeah.
getting into drums and bass and guitars and synthesizers and this and that, this is
And
very specific to people who are vocalists and want to learn to record and produce their own vocals
it
at
seems
home.
like singers are sometimes it seems like singers are sort of the last to come around in terms of recording and technology and gear. Unfortunately, it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah,
And
drummers are
maybe,
always first. I don't know what it is.
maybe I'm dead wrong about that, but
No, you're not wrong. I'm a singer, and I was, sort of, I feel like I was even sort of late to the game. Like I, could have gotten into it way earlier, but
yeah,
I think we sort of have this weird sort of flowy artistic nature about us where it's like I don't want to be bogged down to some computer. I just want to do my thing. And
yeah,
um and there's a place for it for sure. um
yeah, yeah. But the business and the industry, the business, even just on a local level, the business of I want to get in a band, so I have to go audition. That business requires that you have to make a recording, if for no
yeah.
other reason. Because if somebody says, "Yeah, great, come on down," oh, you auditioned for us live, we liked it live. Now what we want to do is we want to hear you make a recording. That's pretty simple. Here's our stuff. Like I said before, here's the lyrics, here's the melody, here's how it goes. We'll give you a couple weeks, come back, and we want to hear how you sound on a recording, which is different than live.
Mhm.
And that's typically coming from a guitarist, a bassist, a drummer. And these people inside bands, not always, but generally tend to be a little bit more on the know in regards to gear, technology, and recording. It sort of comes more with it's like guitarists know gear and they know how to record, and they're sort of like producers, and they pick up on that early on for some reason. And so that's their expectation. What I'm saying is the other people in the band, guitar, bass, drums, have an expectation that you too should know how to plug in GarageBand, fire up a mic, and make a decent recording.
Mhm.
And if
Yeah.
you can't, you're not going to get the gig. And why wouldn't you want to learn anyways? Because recording is fun.
Yeah. And even beyond that too, I mean, you can get plenty of other jobs. I mean, there's so many people that are working remotely now. And as a singer, you could go on websites like Sound Better, Fiverr,
Yeah.
Upwork, all these places, and put yourself out there as a singer and
Yeah.
potentially make money, doing demos, cutting vocals for other people around the world. I
Yes.
do remote work all the time. And if you're a singer and someone in the UK, maybe you guys are in the UK, somewhere across the world wants to put some vocals on something and they don't have anyone in their area to work with and they're looking online for someone, you could potentially be that person and make money from singing, which is the ultimate goal. You want to be able to do what you love for a living. So that's learning to record is the best step towards that goal.
Very cool. Well, it's been about an hour. Is there anything that you're just burning and dying to share with these guys? If not, I'm going to ask you one fun question for your new future students.
Yeah. I would say it can seem overwhelming just as a sort of like, let's leave you with something here. Recording and production and all that, it can seem overwhelming. It can seem really technical, but it's a lot of fun. And I think if you just allow yourself to get into it slowly and really take care every step of the way to make sure you understand certain things before moving on and before becoming engrossed in the thousands of plugins and sounds and things like that. If you really sort of allow yourself to be comfortable with every step, be comfortable with singing into a microphone before you ever record yourself, to be comfortable listening to yourself in headphones and figuring out what makes yourself sound better, before getting into mixing and really just taking your time with it. You'll find that it's so much better and it's so much more rewarding. So if you're a singer who's brand new and getting into any of this kind of stuff, know that, it's a long road and you'll be learning for the rest of your life. And that's okay.
Yeah. I thank you, Tyler. And I just say, as somebody that works with vocal technique, it's sort of a live, vocal technique training is kind of a live medium in a sense. Recording is the other half. And that's part of being a professional singer. And you got to know how to, at least plug in the basic stuff we talked about and how to fire it up. But anyways, Tyler, on behalf of all singers around the world and people that are new to recording and need to make recordings, we thank you for all your super hard work in developing this course. And you will make thousands of people happy and making a nice contribution to the world. And I'm getting a bit heady and esoteric, but I just think it's cool. And it's been fun being a partner of yours. And where can people find the course?
Absolutely. Yes. You can find it on Udemy. I think, are we going to get the link in there, right? In the chat?
By the way, I cut myself shaving. So yes, we're going to leave it in the chat.
Cool.
We have it in the chat. Put it in the comments. The link. Go out to Udemy. And what's it called?
Vocal recording and production for singers. I think if you look it up, it's going to be the first one.
Yep.
Should be.
Vocal recording and production for singers. A beginner's guide to recording. Producing, and mixing vocals at home. What more could you ask for? That's where you start.
Yep.
You can find it at Udemy. And if you have any other additional questions and things, you can contact. If they wanted to contact you, Tyler, where would they go? Would they go, other than Udemy? They could also contact you where?
Yeah, you could go to my website. It's Tyco Sound, www.tycosound.com. You can shoot me an email on there if you have any other questions. And yeah, just so you guys know too, I'll be continually updating the Udemy course. We got a little special going on for Black Friday next week as well. I'm going to send out an email with the template that I use, and I'll make sure that template is good with all of the stock plugins and things that you have in your DAW. So it'll be available for download for free that time next week. And yeah, check it out. Please get in contact with me if you have any questions or anything. I'd be more than happy to help or get you started and point you in the right direction.
Cool.
Yeah.
With that, I think we're done.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.